All right, so in our digital world, we've basically built these giant castles of code to protect, well, everything, our data, our money, our secrets. But what if those castles have these tiny, hidden cracks? Today, we're going to go on a kind of cyber detective mission. Our goal? Find those weaknesses before the bad guys do.
No, seriously, just think about it for a second. Every single app you use, every website you scroll through, all those online services you rely on every day, they're all digital fortresses. We put so much trust in them, right? But are they really as impenetrable as we hope they are?
And that is exactly where this whole world of vulnerability assessment comes into play. It's this high-stakes game of cat and mouse, played by ethical hackers and security pros. Their entire job is to think like an attacker, to find those secret passages and seal them up for good. Okay, let's dive right in. So what exactly are these invisible cracks we're hunting for? Well, in the security world, they're called vulnerabilities. And they can be anything, really. Sometimes it's a tiny mistake in the code. Other times it's a major design flaw in the whole system. But each one is a potential doorway for an attacker. First up, we've got the most notorious of them all, the 0-day. I mean, this is literally the stuff of spy movies. It's a vulnerability that nobody, not even the people who made the software, know exists. So any attacker who finds one has this golden key they can use to get in anywhere, at least until the flaw is finally discovered and, patched. Next, we have something called a race condition. And this one is all about timing. Just imagine this. You and a friend both try to pull the last $100 out of a shared bank account at the exact same millisecond from two different ATMs. Now, if the system isn't designed perfectly, it might check the balance for both of you, see $100, and then give the money to both of you. All of a sudden, the account is negative. That's a race condition, an unexpected, chaotic sequence of events that creates a vulnerability. Then there's the memory leak. This one is a much slower, sneakier kind of bug. You know how sometimes your phone or computer just gets slower and slower over time for no reason? Well, think of an app you close, but it doesn't fully shut down. It holds on to a little bit of memory it's not supposed to. Over time, as you open and close more and more apps, all these tiny leaks add up until your whole system just becomes sluggish and unstable. That's a memory leak in action, and it can eventually bring the whole thing grinding to a halt. And of course, we have to talk about the classic buffer overflow. So every piece of data in a computer has a specific little box or a buffer where it's supposed to live. An overflow happens when an attacker basically shoves way too much data into that box. It spills over, just like overfilling a glass of water, and it ends up corrupting or even overwriting other critical parts of the system's memory. It's a really simple concept, but it can cause absolute chaos. Okay, so now that we know what we're looking for, how do our digital detectives actually find these flaws? Well, they're not just guessing. They have this whole sophisticated toolbox, and it's designed specifically for probing, testing, and exposing these weaknesses. And this whole process, this is what's known as a security assessment. It's not just some random poking and prodding around. It's a formal, methodical investigation to find every single potential gap in a system's defenses. The goal is to create a complete map of an organization's security posture and then figure out exactly what needs to be fixed, and fast. And this is what that toolkit looks like. Each tool here has a really specific job. You've got vulnerability scanners. They're kind of like the bloodhounds, sniffing out all the known weaknesses. Port scanners are there to check for any unlocked doors and windows into the network. And then you've got things like password crackers. Yep, they're testing the strength of the locks on those doors. It's a whole suite of tools for a really thorough investigation. And this quote really gets to the heart of it all. See, it's not enough to just build big walls. You have to think like the person who wants to tear them down. Ethical hackers use the exact same tools and techniques as the bad guys, but their goal is totally different. Find the cracks, and then seal them up before they can ever be exploited. Now, one of the cleverest tools in the entire kit is something called a honeypot. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a trap. Security teams will set up this fake, intentionally vulnerable-looking system just to attract attackers. So when the hackers take the bait, they're diverted away from the real prize, and the security team can just sit back and watch their every move in a safe, contained environment. They get to learn all their methods without any real risk. But here's the thing. These tools, they're not perfect. They face this constant dilemma. On one hand, you have a false positive. That's when the tool sounds an alarm for a vulnerability that isn't actually there. It's annoying, sure, but it's manageable. A A false negative, though, that's a total catastrophe. That's when the scanner completely misses a real dangerous vulnerability, giving you this false sense of security while leaving the doors wide open for an attack. So, scanning for known problems is one thing, but how do you really know if a vulnerability can actually be used against you? For that, you have to go on the offensive, and that's where something called a penetration test comes in. A penetration test, or a pen test for short, is basically a simulated cyber attack. And it follows this really methodical path. It all starts with reconnaissance. That's just gathering as much information as you can about the target. Then comes the initial exploit, trying to get that first foot in the door. From there, the tester tries to escalate their privileges, pivot to other machines on the network, and finally, establish persistence, proving they can maintain access over time. Now, not all pen tests are created equal. In a black box test, the ethical hacker starts with absolutely zero information, just like a real external attacker would. But in a white box test, they're given the keys to the kingdom. We're talking full access to source code, network diagrams, everything. This simulates an attack from a malicious insider who already knows the whole environment. And, as you've probably guessed, there's a middle ground too. A gray box test gives the tester some limited information, maybe like the login credentials for a standard user. This is perfect for simulating what a regular, non-privileged employee or a hacker who just stole some basic credentials could do. All right, so we've talked about the hidden cracks, the detectives' tools, and these simulated attacks. But why does any of this really matter to you? What's the real-world impact of this constant digital cat and mouse game? So let's bring it all home. Here's what you really need to take away from this. First, every single piece of software has potential flaws, no exceptions. To find them, security pros have to adopt a hacker mindset. They use things like penetration testing, a controlled attack, to see if a threat is real. And it's this constant vigilance that protects your data, your privacy, and all those digital services we rely on. But remember, the goal isn't just to find the flaws, it's to actually fix them. And the stakes here, well, they couldn't be higher. A single critical vulnerability that goes undiscovered in a major piece of software can lead to breaches that cost companies, governments, and individuals billions of dollars in damages. And that's not even counting the complete loss of trust. You see, this isn't a battle that ever really ends. New software is written every single day, and with it, new, undiscovered vulnerabilities are born. The real question isn't if the next major attack will happen, but when. And the hard work of these digital detectives is what determines whether or not we'll be ready for it.